Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 691st edition of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. I'm your host, Daniel Feuerstein, giving you an American perspective of our clubs, leagues, players, national team, and other fabulous moments. Get your daily reading from me and other writers over at Beyond the 90, at beyondthe90.substack.com, and locally over at Bad Dog Sports for some New York soccer. Well, chat room is open on YouTube. Come on in, discuss amongst yourselves if you like. You have a question for me, I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities. And as we get ready to talk about what an amazing 2025 U.S. Open Cup final that was, action-packed, wonderful moments in that match. Before I even get to talking about what happened there, I want to give credit, and I also want to say thank you to CBS Sports. I want to show my gratitude to CBS Sports for putting on not just a fantastic broadcast, but having the right people calling the match over at the desk, pitch side. Everything and anything went brilliantly during pregame, the match, halftime, and then post-match. It's something that, as a person who worked in the industry and studied television production, working for the Phoenix Communications Group, also interned at Madison Square Garden Network. Now, normally I don't like to throw my credentials out there, but, working in the industry myself, I know what it takes to create a production, whether it be a show or a live action sporting event. Meaning I've had to call college soccer games when I attended Ramapo College. And of course, you've heard me online, formerly at rabble.net or rabble.com, where I called either a U.S. men's national team match, Open Cup whip-around shows, putting my all into these games. I have also done, believe it or not, even though it hasn't been broadcasted, I've done minor league hockey a long time ago in the American Hockey League playoffs. Hartford Wolfpack at the Beast of New Haven. Of course, the Beast of New Haven is no longer around, and neither is the arena. But I know how hard putting on a live production of a sporting event is very important in this industry. I know what it takes to go out there and work on live events. I've even done college football at St. John's when they had it, Stony Brook out in Long Island, Fordham University in the Bronx. I am well aware of what production does. I am very, very well aware of how a match is constructed through the eyes of television producers, executive producers, cameramen, editors, broadcasters. I have done it all. And to see what CBS Sports has done with the Open Cup in a full season, from the third round all the way to the final, every match of every round from the third to the final, it was a marvelous job from what I was able to see. And I don't mind rattling off these names. I'm rattling them off because I think they were superb in broadcasting this final. From Ali Tross Martin, Jillian Sakovits, Tony Miola, Charlie Davies, Michael LaHood, Jimmy Conrad, Nico Cantor, Mike Grella, Poppy Miller, Chris Winningham calling the match, doing sideline for the two semifinals, Claudia Pagan. And of course, let's not also forget those other broadcasters like Mike Watts, Joe Malfa, Ricky Lopez Espin, Devin Kerr, and everyone else that broadcasted those matches across our nation, from the amateur level to the third division, the second division, and the first division. What we have with CBS Sports is a match made in heaven for the U.S. Open Cup. It made me proud and happy that we had people and a network in their sports department that truly cares about the game. And even though they did create their Golazo network, it's still, in my opinion, it is still the best thing that anyone's ever done. It's so much knowledge and coverage and discussion. It's just been unbelievable of what we've been missing in American soccer. Now, MLS will do what MLS wants with Apple TV, even though many still claim it's still not good enough. But I will say this. I truly believe that hopefully one day, as great as CBS Sports has been with the UEFA Champions League, the UEFA Europa League, the Conference League, and even doing women's CONCACAF Champions Cup, and as well as the CONCACAF Nations League, even though it's only a short tournament when it comes to the semifinals and the final, I am hoping to see what they could do with a World Cup. And hopefully after this upcoming World Cup in 2026, the next men's World Cup, I hope CBS Sports puts their hat in the ring, I should say. I also wish CONCACAF would send all of their broadcasts, under 20s, under 17s, Gold Cup, Champions Cup, send it to CBS Sports. I just believe they just do a much better job. And believe me, I want everyone else to be at that level. ESPN was up here. Okay? ESPN was at this level. Now they're like here, halfway, because they've lost something. Fox, I would say a little bit below where ESPN is. Not too low, but like right there. So, Fox Sports, ESPN, CBS Sports. Right there, folks. CBS Sports is the new alpha when it comes to covering the game in this country. Not just what goes on in Europe, not just what goes on in South America, but what they are trying to establish and accomplish in our backyard. Because for sure, what they did was unbelievable. The conversations at the desk, pitch side, and not just within themselves, when they brought over Matthew McConaughey, one of the co-owners of Austin FC. the head coach of the U.S. men's national team, Mauricio Pochettino. To have them both together having a conversation about the game in this country was unbelievable. But what's even more special that I don't think anyone saw, but I did. When you see Santiago Lopez and his sister Irene pitchside post-match from El Farolito, they won the inaugural John Mata Cup as the longest standing lower division club outside of the professional leagues. And they're automatically going to the U.S. Open Cup again in 2026. To have them both there was just something special, and it just warmed my heart. You know, when you watch me talk about the NPSL, and whenever Santiago Lopez is on my show, it's great to have him on, to have his insights, to talk about the club and what they've done in their seasons in the NPSL. But for them to get that recognition on CBS Sports / Paramount Plus does not matter. It still counts. CBS Sports. That, my friends, is something special. And this is where I come in and I ask, not demand, I ask, would CBS Sports come in at the final round of Open Cup qualification and broadcast on 2 weekend dates? Would you broadcast the final round of qualifying for the U.S. Open Cup? Give those amateur teams a moment in the sun. I don't care if it's on Paramount Plus. I don't care if it's on CBS Sports Golazo. I don't care if it's on CBS Sports Network or on your national CBS Sports, CBS channel. I don't care. This is where I trust you. This is where I believe in you. This is where I think CBS Sports, to get another leg up on the competition, another leg up of watching and hoping and praying that more comes towards the Open Cup. Because this is what we have all been wanting and waiting for. Look, there's a lot of things we give flack to U.S. soccer. There's a lot of things that, I think U.S. soccer needs to change and improve on. But when you are getting it right with the Open Cup and you're making strides to make it bigger and better, I have to tip my hat and I have to applaud them. I have to applaud U.S. soccer. I have to applaud the Open Cup committee. I have to give them their due, because what they're doing is the right thing. Making the Open Cup what it should always be about. And if certain members of the board of directors can't see that, then they need to get their heads out of the sand, stop being ostriches and burying your head in the sand, and start understanding this tournament is our national championship of the game. Every club in MLS, USL in the Championship League, USL League One, USL League Two, NPSL. I really do hope NISA does come back and gets they're sanctioning back. If not, then I hope some of these clubs will come to a USL League. And all of the amateur leagues, semi-professional, real amateurs, come in and show the world we can play this game too, from top to bottom. The Open Cup is sacrosanct. This is why we love the Open Cup. This is why we want the Open Cup to be something special. This is why that everyone in England loves their FA Cup. Everyone in Germany loves the DFB Pokal. This domestic cup competition should be and always has to be on the forefront of every soccer fan in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, great show for you tonight. And before we bring on my first guest, let's go ahead and give you tonight's sponsor, and it is Dino Luzzi Energy Drink. Let me tell you about this segment sponsor. It's Dino Luzzi Energy Drink. When I need that extra kick to power through match analysis and late night transfer rumors, there's only one drink that delivers authentic Italian energy, Dino Luzzi. It's crafted in Italy with the same passion I bring to the show, because real energy comes from real ingredients, just like real soccer talk comes from real insiders. And now my first guest from the Austin Chronicle covers Austin FC, and unfortunately, as I have always say in these shows, someone had to win, someone had to lose, and unfortunately, it was Austin FC. But joining us tonight, Eric Goodman from the Austin Chronicle joining me. Eric, thanks again for coming on. Look, tough match, tough pill to swallow, I know, but I give Nico Estevez and Austin FC a lot of kudos for how they played, tried to get that equalizer, number 2, just at the end of the day, just could not happen.
Yeah, you're right. This is one of those occasions where, there wasn't one team that necessarily dominated the play. And I think, you look at the stat sheet, it actually favors Austin. I think a lot of that is because of Nashville gets the opening goal early. Austin's playing from behind most of the game, and that typically lends to, a higher shot total, higher possession. But I do think the teams were very evenly matched. And it really comes down to, and it doesn't, some people around here in Austin were very upset about what did end up deciding the match, which was a penalty call around the 60th minute, soft one in the box. But it's not as if that was an 89th minute penalty. It didn't directly decide the match. It's a frustrating one to give up, but you do have to credit Nashville for being tough to break down defensively, as they've been all season and most of their existence. And Austin, even with all that fan support at Q2 Stadium, which was a great environment, not able to get back to equalize. And, with some of the matches that Austin had played en route to that final, you thought that there was going to be some magic moment to come, just as there had been against Minnesota, just as there had been against San Jose Earthquakes, but wasn't to be. And, tough scenes in that locker room, in that Austin locker room after the match.
Absolutely. I thought Osman Bukhari actually had the equalizer in that second half, going short side at the near post. Unfortunately, Schwacke just made a fantastic save that prevented it from happening.
Yeah, he had a great game, Schwacke. I mean, Nashville is one of those teams that kind of does the classic league goalkeeper and then cup competition goalkeeper. And credit to that, reserve goalkeeper. He doesn't get a lot of minutes, but he made some big saves. And for Austin, with some of my pals up in the press box, we were kind of playing over under Brad Stuver's 6.5 saves pre-match. He ended up with none. And I think that, it's quirky. It doesn't necessarily define the match, but it does tell you he wasn't able to have the kind of impact that he was having in Austin's pathway to get to the final. And obviously, he has a really solid record in terms of facing penalties, but wasn't able to keep Sam Surridge from bagging that opening goal from the penalty spot, or the deciding goal from the penalty spot.
No, absolutely. And unfortunately, once again, it's just a situation where a little play here or there, and we could have had extra time. And I think Brad Stuver, granted, probably didn't have a lot of work, but still, though, just his stature alone, I thought you felt Austin was coming back and he was going to try and prevent anything else coming his way after the penalty converted by Sam Surridge.
Yeah, in both goals. I mean, I know we've talked a lot about how good of a year Brad Stuver's having, but it's true that the goals Austin are giving up right now are ones that no goalkeeper is going to save. And I think Hani Mukhtar's opener was of that kind of quality. A really solid finish that obviously hits a downward angle, hits the turf, and then finds its way into the top corner, because that's just the kind of player Hani Mukhtar has been since he's come to MLS. And then it's that tough penalty. Sam Surridge sends Stuver the wrong way and does what Mirto Uzuni couldn't do when Austin was given their own questionable penalty call. Mirto Uzuni wasn't able to beat Schwake and level things up at that point. And that you can look back at that for as many Austin fans that want to criticize the decision to give Nashville their penalty call. They converted theirs. Austin had a similar case, didn't convert on theirs, and that's in the end, in the margins as slim as they were in that match, that's how it got shook out.
No, absolutely. I wanted to ask you this question, and I will divert towards VAR here because, I mean, like I said, and many people have said, those particular situations did not cost Austin the game, that's for sure, because they had plenty of time to get that second goal. But when you watch the replay and then you see Palacios, yeah, he was grabbed by Pereira, but not grabbed in a way where, he hauled him down. I mean, you would like to think VAR would have to step in and say to referee Tori Penso, I think you're going to have to take that penalty away because he didn't really bring him down. He fell on his own.
So obviously this is, has been discussed ad nauseum here in Austin. And one thing that I don't think the broadcast cameras caught, but I do think Tony Meola mentioned it, was that right before that corner kick was taken, Tori Penso was directly talking to both of those players, Pereira and Palacios, trying to get them to stop tying each other up. And so I agree it's soft. I don't necessarily agree that it was so soft to where you reverse a decision that is given on the pitch. But what I do think and what I do know is that Danny Pereira, when you've just been told that not to wrap up in the box, don't put the referee in that position where first of all, don't put yourself in that position where Palacios can fall on his own, make something out of nothing, and then put Tori Penso in a position where she then has to decide, was that just a complete disregard for what I was just explaining to them, or was that not enough contact? And that's going to shake out, that's going to shake out against you a lot more frequently than the corner kick would if you were just to defend it straight up, hands down, and try to mark Palacios 1v1.
Yeah, I agree. And once again, look, when Uzuni had his penalty opportunity, unfortunately, he just didn't take it well and gave Schwake an easy save to stop it at the far post. But I have to say, his redemption, scoring the goal just inside first half stoppage time, really was an amazing chance that he finally got. And I just love the camera angle where after he scored, you see him celebrating right away with a big run, and everyone in the Q2 just went bananas.
Yeah, Mirto Uzuni's such an emotional player. That's been clear since the moment he got here in Central Texas. He's a player that will tell you that his basically whole personality and his whole mood is dependent on whether or not he's scoring goals. This is a guy who grew up with very little in Albania. He talks openly about how soccer was the only chance he would have ever had to bring any kind of prosperity to his family. That's how he approached it growing up. And this has been a frustrating season for him in a lot of ways. I think a lot of the emotion you saw in that goal was, number one, because it was a huge goal and a huge match for Austin. Also, anybody who misses a penalty is going to the next thing they're going to desperately want to do is make amends. And, I did catch Uzuni, he was one of the players that was in tears in that, walking back to the Austin locker room, just, very distraught. They really wanted this for their fans. I think they appreciated the opportunity that this was to not only win a trophy, but to do so in front of your home fans in your own building. And I know that it's hit them hard to have seen that opportunity come and go and have to watch Nashville celebrate on their own pitch.
Exactly. And I don't blame him at all. That's not great to see when that happened. But obviously something weird did happen towards the back end of the regulation was in second half stoppage time. Sam Surridge gets double yellowed. Well, he got tied up with Owen Wolf for the first yellow, and he got his yellow too. And then all of a sudden, he's kicking a loose ball, and it hits the newly thrown in ball in front of Stuver, and he got second yellow and red. I understand it's like maybe 3-4 minutes have already passed, out of the 6. But, when Serge gets the sending off, did you feel maybe there's that one opportunity? Here we go again. Austin could get that equalizer.
I didn't feel like there was enough time for that. I'm not even sure there was 60 seconds between Serge seeing the red card and the final whistle blowing. But it does kind of tell you what, and any team is going to do this, especially on the road. I mean, they were trying to kill off every second that they possibly could with whatever tactics they were going to be allowed to get away with. And this was one where Tori Penso finally had to say enough. And I think any player, I do think any player that does something that demonstrative and that disruptive to the ball being put back in play is going to get a yellow. And I think Sam Surridge said it himself. He had kind of forgotten that he was on a yellow. And if I think he said if he had known, he would have just let Stuver take that goal kick. So, but it was at a point in a match where you kind of knew that even I think Nashville would sacrifice defending with 10 men to just, continue what they were doing of milking the clock, time wasting, if you want to call it that, and making sure that they didn't give Austin any time to work with to get the equalizer.
No, absolutely. I have to ask you, ever since Matthew McConaughey ever became a part owner of Austin FC, I mean, look, I'm happy he's involved in the game. That's number one on my book. But the amazing passion that I saw from him at the pre-match on CBS Sports Network, and even being next to Mauricio Pochettino, current head coach of the U.S. men's national team, what has he done that has given every Austin FC fan goosebumps that this Hollywood actor, who to me seems he's never lost what he was brought up from, being a Texan. Just amazing what passion he brings for this game, that he's caught the bug like all of us have.
Yeah, that's right. And it is really cool. I've been used to, him popping up at big sporting events as a UT Austin grad, just as McConaughey is. He's always there supporting the Longhorns. I think that's where, it really comes from his Texas roots and his roots as a UT, alum and a fan. And I think what has helped him kind of embrace soccer so much is that his wife, whose name I'm unfortunately forgetting at the moment, Alves. I know Alves is her last name, but she's Brazilian, and so his kids are half Brazilian, and so soccer. I think they live and breathe soccer way more than they do American football, and I think he really wants to nurture that. He loves Austin. I know he's not quite as present, frequently as a lot of fans would want. And he gave himself this title called the Minister of Culture, which nobody really knows what that means or what responsibilities he has or what comes with that. But that it is kind of that, it's a big match when McConaughey shows up. And it was great to see him. That's non-negotiable. If your team's in a final, if you're in the Open Cup final, it's all hands on deck. And so it was good to see him out there. And he's an actor. I'm sure some of the support is done, a little bit for show, but I do think deep down he does care deeply about this club and wants to see it succeed.
No, so I'm glad he does. Look, I understand he's a very busy man. I mean, we don't know when his next movie role or TV role is going to be, but still, though, to see a camera on him every opportunity that Austin FC had, and he's like on the edge. I swear to God, I thought I was going to jump out of the skybox and land both feet into the crowd and just have him, crowd rushed to the pitch. So like, here, we're going to send you down gently and everything, kind of like being in one of those like mosh pits situations. That's how crazy it is, Eric. And I love that type of crazy.
Yeah, it's one of the cool quirks about, Austin FC, and other clubs have, certain celebrity fans and certain traditions. Austin has the heartbeat where they're beating the drum, screaming "Y Verde Listos" before matches. It makes for a great environment. You saw an awesome tifo, which, the supporters groups do a great job with, and another kind of, it's a big game when you see them sprawl out a beautiful, mural in crowd form. And so it was great to see. It was for a Wednesday night, especially, really awesome environment. I wasn't used to the traffic that I was hitting on the way to the match. It's kind of when I knew that people had clued in and that this was going to be a big deal. So it was a great night, except for, the fact that people eventually had to go home disappointed in Nashville, and credit to several hundred Nashville fans that filled that away section. And I'm sure made a lifetime memory watching their team lift their first ever trophy in club history.
I know that Austin and the Q2 Stadium is like a new destination for U.S. soccer, whether it's a friendly, a World Cup qualifier, even for CONCACAF during the Gold Cup in a group stage match or a knockout stage match. But to see that far side, I'm assuming that's the south east side, I'm assuming, that you see on the right side of the camera.
I think that's exactly right.
It's all plastered with U.S. Open Cup placard, billboard, whatever you want to call it. Just amazing to see that. That just, I could not believe they actually had that done. That was awesome.
And this has been such a big year for soccer in Austin and Q2 Stadium specifically, hosting MLS All-Star Game. And then, it doesn't stop. On Friday, the U.S. men's national team's back in Austin for, it feels like, for as short a time as the stadium's been open, it feels like this is a regular occurrence now, which is just, so much fun as a soccer supporter here in town. Big match against Ecuador. People might not realize how great of a story Ecuador has been in CONMEBOL qualifying. I mean, they finished ahead of Brazil, ahead of Colombia, only behind Argentina, I believe, and only in 18 matches conceded 5 goals. So they're not only looking like a team to qualify, they have qualified. And now it's like, okay, if they can be this tough to score against when the World Cup comes around, how deep can a small nation like Ecuador really go? And we're going to get a great look at them and whatever Mauricio Pochettino and this U.S. men's national team, we'll see what they have in store for us on Friday night.
No, exactly. And it should be a lot of fun Friday night. Can't wait for that. But, finally, Nico Estevez, do you think he is the guy for the future now for Austin FC to put them in a better position? I mean, I know what FC Dallas was thinking when they let him go, because to me, it looks like this is your guy for Austin.
That's a really interesting question, and it's a hard one for me because I haven't for a lot of this season, I haven't been impressed necessarily by what I've seen. And it does seem like when Austin's had success, it's kind of been a lot of magic, things that it's not like Austin has had a ton of moments of really dominant soccer where you feel great about what the product is on the pitch. And I think, first of all, his job is obviously not at risk. He's done plenty to stick around next year. He's going to be the coach for next season. But in terms of, your question of how good do I feel about him to lead Austin to great things in the future, I'm really interested to see what this club looks like, how they finish out this regular season. Now, if you count the Open Cup final, 3 straight losses, really tough times at a bad part of the season where you don't want to have that. They did fall backwards into clinching a playoff spot because of other results that happened. So Austin will be in the playoffs, but what are they going to do when they get there? It's going to tell me a lot about, what the trajectory this team is on going forward.
Yeah, exactly. Eric, as always, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. Hope to have you on during the playoffs. One more match left after this international break, and then it's off to the playoffs. We'll see what happens. But I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you got it, Daniel. Good to talk to you as always.
Good to talk to you as always. Eric Goodman from the Austin Chronicle talking about, unfortunately, like I said, someone has to win, someone has to lose. And unfortunately for Eric, it's Austin that falls at home to Nashville SC. And speaking about Nashville SC, he couldn't join me live tonight. Recorded this interview with him today, of course, from 615 Soccer in Nashville, Tennessee, Valair Shabilla covering Nashville SC. And here we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the American Soccer Show as we're reviewing the 2025 U.S. Open Cup final as
Nashville SC finally does it. Their first championship in professional sports. It wasn't the Tennessee Titans of the NFL. It was not the Nashville Predators of the NHL. It was Nashville SC in the U.S. Open Cup. And talking to me about it is Mr. Valair Shabilla of 615 Soccer. Valair, thank you once again coming back. How was the trip to Austin? And how was the trip back from Austin?
It was all great, man. It was one of the, well, not one of the best away trip. I think Nashville SC, Nashville fans really showed up. I have traveled to see this team, whether as a fan or journalist, more so on the fan side earlier, like in the USL days, and then more so as a journalist, sort of in more MLS years. But I've never seen anything like that before. I've seen this team play in places like Birmingham and Memphis and friendly in Evansville, Indiana, and stuff like that. So seeing the difference between the traveling fans and what that culture was back then to where it is now, it's honestly a crazy thing to experience. And seeing it in Austin, it was a beautiful showing of what this team and what this market is capable of. We talk about the Nashville market. It's still newer to soccer in general. We've had soccer here in Nashville since the 70s, really. We had like one pro team that lasted 1 year in the 70s. And then since then, it's been a bunch of semi-pros. And then Nashville SC came in and kind of changed things around. And it has been a struggle at times to get folks interested, but seeing the amount of traveling fans to Austin, seeing the people covering the team from the media side as well, whether it's 615 Soccer, obviously like us, but also I was just telling you before we started recording, there was a local paper there from Nashville that traveled to Austin. There were a couple of other local independent media organizations also traveling to Austin. That just showcases where the market is and where the fan base is, and where Nashville SC sits in the sort of Tennessee, Nashville hierarchy of sports.
It really was. And, the excitement of the game, you can tell, not just from the home fans in Austin, but the section of away supporters from Nashville was just absolutely fantastic to see how much this game means to both teams, to both fans. But at the end of the day, Nashville comes out on top, and what a celebration that was out on the pitch at the Q2 Stadium.
Yeah, and I think it being away maybe added a little bit to the celebration, actually, in terms of, in terms of sticking in people's memory. Obviously, if they lifted the trophy at home, I think everybody prefers that. But the fact that it happened away, those who made the trip, those who were there, I think will remember this forever. And Nashville SC player Taylor Washington, who's been with the team since 2017 back in USL, he said that he's going to be telling his grandkids about this over and over again. He's still with the squad. He's still a player for Nashville SC, which is really awesome to see. And those fans will be doing the same, because being away and being sort of a small group of people, small relatively to the 20,000 or 18,000 or whatever it was Austin fans there, I think added a little bit to the celebrations. It was really nice. I think everybody within the Nashville SC squad knew the importance of that trophy. BJ Callahan has kind of drilled into them what this means to the city, what this means to the state, and what this means to them, of course, in their careers, and the fans who have been supporting them since day one. Some fans I saw there who I have seen in minor league baseball stadiums. I've seen support in Vanderbilt soccer stadium, which is, holds about 1,000 people, I think, on a good day, maybe 500. I've seen them support this team since those days, and now they got to travel to Austin and see their team lift the U.S. Open Cup. And that's the last thing I'll say about this, is that because it was the Open Cup, I think that made it a little bit more special as well for those fans, because Nashville SC has competed in the Open Cup in multiple iterations, not just in the MLS iteration. So for those fans who've been there from the beginning, I think this was just a little bit extra sweet, and they saw their team lift, the most important, the oldest trophy in American sports.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and take a look at the match. Before we even talk about the match on its entirety, Brian Schwacke had probably an amazing night in goal for Nashville. I mean, I couldn't believe what I watched from him. He really looked hungry, determined, and normally Joe Willis, I thought would probably get the final, but no, you give it to Schwacke, and he was just unbelievably fantastic.
Yeah, he played every single minute of the Open Cup, and every single minute available to him, available for Nashville SC, he was in goal in the Open Cup. And BJ Callahan gave him a huge vote of confidence by starting him in the final. He started him in the semifinal against the Philly Union here at home. And once he did that, I told everybody, I was like, he's going to start at the final. There's no, if you are willing to start your goalkeeper against the Supporters Shield leading Philadelphia Union, I think you are willing to start them in the final as well. And then that was a testament to BJ Callahan trusting his team, and obviously to Schwacke for not only showing up big, but being, I think he was man of the match for Nashville. And I've been saying that since the game, just because of how much he bailed them out. Even when he, if you want to call it a mistake on that penalty that he made, he corrected that mistake by saving the penalty, which wasn't an easy penalty to save. It wasn't like it was shot right at him or anything like that. But I think the story of Schwacke is actually the story of this new Nashville SC, which they're calling Nashville SC 2.0. The story is BJ Callahan hones on this every single time we talk to him, is that when your number's called up, you step up. And it's a very cliche thing, but this has happened throughout the pitch. You look at somebody like Josh Bauer playing very important minutes at right back, center back, and left back this season. You look at somebody like, so Eddie Taxeth, Patrick Hesbeck, and Gaston Brugman have all shared two positions between the three of them on a constantly rotating. You look at the 4 or 5 wingers Nashville SC has. Pretty much everybody has come in and put in work. And then this all accumulated in the Orlando game in the quarterfinal. I believe it was the quarterfinal. And what happened there is that Nashville SC goes to Orlando and fields a team that, if you look on paper, you're like, all right, you're away at Orlando for an Open Cup quarterfinal, and you put in this team. I mean, you follow MLS really well. If you go look at that team, I think you'll be able to identify 3 or 4 players. Not because you don't know the teams, just because Nashville fielded a very, very obscure team that was mostly Huntsville guys, who was the second team for Nashville, a couple academy guys and stuff like that. However, they came out of that game in Orlando with a 3-2 win, with the winner being scored by Wyatt Meyer. Wyatt Meyer, no disrespect, I said this on my podcast as well, there's a good chance Wyatt Meyer doesn't put on a Nashville shirt again in his life. But because he was there in that moment and scored that winning goal, a beautiful goal, by the way, he's forever going to be in the full core history of Nashville SC. And that's what this Open Cup run has been. And Walker Zimmerman has been really good about saying this over and over, is that it included players from Huntsville. It included players who haven't gotten a whole lot of minutes with Nashville, included academy products. This run has been the most cumulative run for the club as a whole, for Nashville SC organization as a whole, than something like MLS, where, your top players will usually just be the ones getting the minutes.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And that's what's so brilliant about this tournament. You get those kids that get an opportunity when they normally don't get called up or don't get the minutes to play for their senior side. And then they get that opportunity in the Open Cup, and it allows them to get noticed by the coach and says, yeah, you know what, I'll probably use you next in the regular league match. So we'll see what happens there. Now let's talk about the game. Great goal in the 17th minute between Sam Surridge, who was on the far side with a nice cross to Jacob Schaffelberg. I thought at the time it might have been a misplay by Schaffelberg, but I guess that was intentional. He chested it toward Mukhtar, and all he did was just, not a great shot, but still, though, bounced it inside the far post to make it 1-0.
Yeah, I think when you look at a winger crossing it to a center forward or a striker for an aerial duel, that's usually what would happen. This time around, it was the opposite. It was the striker sending it in the air to a winger who isn't very tall or big. Jacob Schaffelberg is a smaller guy. He's a winger, though. That's perfect for his position. but he wins his aerial duel. And I think that's a very, very important thing to note here, is that he wins that aerial duel, laying it off to Mukhtar, who takes that shot, like you said, onto the ground and onto the goal. But I think that kind of showcases what Nashville is under BJ Callahan a lot of times, which is Callahan has told us over and over again, when there's an opportunity for you to run into the box, it doesn't matter if you're the center back, right back, midfielder, just run into the box. If there's an opportunity, go and get it. And that's what Jacob Schaffelberg was doing, who's had an up and down season, but being able to get that assist. And obviously the two DPs, Hani Mukhtar and Sam Surridge, look, I've run out of things to say about them. If you just look at the goals and the stats, they'll speak for themselves. They're two all-stars for a reason, and they have been just incredible throughout this whole season and in this game as well.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we go to that 22nd minute. Earlier, around the 18th, 19th minute, there was a penalty called for Austin. And, VAR available. And honestly, Schwacke didn't make a touch on the ball before he took down his man. And I thought VAR was going to review it and say, wipe it out, but they never did. But still, though, Schwacke makes that penalty kick save, even though Mayerto Uzuni just didn't take it well.
Yeah, I didn't think it was the best of penalties, but also, he at least put it on one of the sides. And for the penalty call in itself, I've seen that reversed literally a few days before. I was watching. Now, to be fair, I wasn't in MLS. I was watching the Premier League, and Arsenal had a very, very similar call. And matter of fact, Nick Pope, the goalkeeper for Newcastle, got even less of a touch on the ball, and the decision was returned. And I truly believe that if the ref was called to go to the monitor, she would have reversed it. I truly believe that. And I know we'll get to it, but on the other end, I think she would have done the same thing if she was called to the monitor. But they didn't call her to the monitor on either end. And I think the Austin fans were pretty upset with the referee, and I understand the Austin players were pretty upset with the referee. But I really think the blame should be more so on the VAR rather than the center ref herself. And I was shocked how that wasn't called to the monitor, both at the moment and right now. But, at the end of the day, that was an opportunity for Austin. That was an opportunity for Austin to solidify themselves as somebody in the game. And let's face it, Austin came out and tried to play ball this time around. This wasn't what was expected. It was expected for them to sit tight and sit deep and let Nashville have the ball. But clearly Nashville's goal, and even before Nashville's goal, Austin had a different game plan for this, and they wanted to go out. Unfortunately for them, I just don't think they had enough quality to actually penetrate Nashville with the ball. I think in transition moment, they looked really good. And a couple of set pieces, they looked pretty good. But in terms of the actual sort of on the ball, being able to break down Nashville, I just don't think they had it in them. And the penalty was one of those opportunities, the best opportunity, one would say. And, Schwacke was able to come up big and save it.
I agree. Unfortunately, though, you did give up the equalizer. 45th minute, probably the start of first half stoppage time. Uzuni made up for the missed penalty and did beat Schwacke in between, nutmegged him. But you didn't feel discouraged, did you, when that goal went in?
I mean, I think somebody like me who's seen this team, Nashville SC, play throughout the whole season, and I've seen them play for years, I just thought they weren't playing to their ability. I think one of the main things that BJ Callahan has improved with this Nashville SC team is playing with the ball and being able to control games with the ball. And for some reason, they just kept giving the ball to Austin back and back again. And it wasn't like Austin was pressing them really high or anything along those lines. So I was a little more curious about why Nashville wanted this transition game and this quick sort of tit for tat game, instead of just kind of saying somebody in midfield needed to say, guys, calm down. We're ahead. Away from home, we got control of the game. They are the ones that are pushing. We shouldn't be the ones pushing. But, nobody said that in the first half at least. And then that goal comes from a transition moment. Again, a bad pass here and there. And then here you go. And going into halftime, Austin had the fans really shout out to the Austin fans. They looked and sounded great. They had a tifo for the match. And I thought that's a big benefit for them. That said, again, I hadn't seen enough from on the ball quality from Austin to actually fear for Nashville a whole lot.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And of course, you get in the second half, Nashville gets their penalty in the 60th minute, of course. And I mean, I understand referee Tori Penzo did warn Austin about, grabbing a Nashville player, and it was Palacios who got grabbed by, I believe it was either
Danny
I
Pereira.
think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and from the initial look, it looked like he got hauled down. And once again, VAR, like we talked about on replay, didn't look like he was hauled down, but they just kept the penalty. They didn't even bother telling Pensa to go to the monitor.
Yeah, it's an interesting moment. Again, just like the Schwalke one, I think she should have been called to the monitor. I think she would have reversed it just like the Schwalke ones if she's seen it again. I do think, Pereira should have been smarter there as well. I know that I know that Austin fans and maybe himself even feel like great injustice happening to them. But if you get warned, you can't go and grab the other player by two hands. I mean, it's don't do that. That's exactly. Really as simple as that. And yeah, maybe it's a softer penalty. I agree. But again, on the other end, they didn't call her to the monitor. This time they don't call her to the monitor. And for Pereira to have the warning and still do it, I thought it was a smart play by Palacios. Look, I think people will have their issues. They will always remember this game as a game with a soft penalty that won it. But at the end of the day, that same opportunity was given to Austin in the 22nd minute. We talked about it. And Austin did not score that opportunity.
No, they did not.
Here we are in the 60th minute. Who steps up? The DP again, Sam Surridge, and he puts it in. And that was the difference in the game.
Now, did you find it strange that after he put the ball down at the spot and waited for a while, he went back to the ball to reset it? I mean, I've never seen that before in my life. Do you think that's mind games, or did the ball actually make a slight movement that we didn't see at the naked eye?
So there was a lot of commotion around the ball, and I don't know who touched it and who didn't touch it. He put it down, and then the ref told him to move it back a little bit because it was too forward. Yeah, so he went back and put it backwards a little bit. But during that time, the Austin players got into the box, and then some Nashville players got into the box, and then it was a whole thing. So then he was, I think. But one thing I asked Sam Surridge about the penalty, and he said that. He said that he had decided where he's going to go with the penalty if he had an opportunity during the game. He had decided how he's going to shoot it and where he's going to shoot it. And he's also decided where he would shoot it if the game went to penalties. So he had already made his decisions before the game. He said midweek he made those decisions, and he just stuck with the decisions he had made. Thankfully for him, it worked. I didn't think it was the best of penalties, honestly. I thought he could have done much better. He scored much better penalties, but again, it worked out, and Nashville were ahead.
Mm-hmm. And later in the match, in the second half, Schwalke made another brilliant save, short side opportunity, I think from Bukhari, who tried to sneak one in at the near post, but great job by Schwalke to make that save. And then from the rest of the match, nothing else to document except for, unfortunately for Sam Surridge, he saw a double yellow in second half stoppage time. I know the tussle inside the Austin area, you can understand that. And then, of course, the loose ball kicking to knock out the new ball that got put into play. And that gave him second yellow, automatic red. Now, down a man for only a minute or two, I guess. Yeah, but I mean, nothing serious, and grateful that he was able to run back out there to celebrate, unless he was banned for that. I don't know, but that was just tremendous moment that, with the way now the Open Cup is, if you win the Open Cup of an MLS club, you don't return next season to defend the title. How do you feel about that? Because I've been upset about this rule change because of Leagues Cup, the so-called fan fatigue by MLS front office, making this thing up. So what's your thoughts that congratulations, you won it, but you're not going to defend it?
Yeah, I think that's massively unfair. If I recall correctly, I think Orlando got into the Open Cup last year because they wanted the year before, even though they were in Leagues Cup. I think I need to double check on that. So maybe there is an opportunity there for Nashville to request that. I think it's an absolutely ridiculous thing that MLS is not allowing all their teams to be in the Open Cup. I think it's absolutely ludicrous from this league to deny the opportunity for some of these teams to win a domestic trophy, another domestic trophy. The Leagues Cup, the first year, look, there was the Messi buzz. We here in Nashville had the final, so it was a huge, huge deal. It was a big sort of thing. But then second year and the third year has just died down, and even the Mexican teams don't want to play in it now. And it just seems like a really good business opportunity for MLS. And now that was the whole reason of having it, not for any sporting merit. There was no sporting merit in it, and it was a business opportunity. But even the business opportunity, to me, doesn't seem worth it anymore. I mean, I've saw enough empty stadiums to kind of make that decision. Now only half of your league is joining this competition. Not every team gets this. So again, another blow. And then next year there's the World Cup. So I'm like, how are you going to fit all this? I mean, I would hate for MLS to be going on while the World Cup is going on. I hope that doesn't happen. But I can't tell you for sure that's not going to happen. And then, for the Leagues Cup, I just really hope that was the end of it. But I don't think it is, unfortunately. If it was my decision, I would just say, you know what? Continental play, it's a privilege for teams that do well. If your team didn't do well enough to play continentally, they don't deserve to play continentally. They need to play domestically well enough to qualify. And that's why we have the Champions Cup, a CONCACAF competition. And now the Champions Cup has 8, 9 MLS teams any given year. Look, you have a good opportunity. If you're good enough, you can make it. And if you're not good enough, you don't deserve to play in these sort of competitions. So that's my take on it. Congrats to the teams that won the Leagues Cup in the 3 years. I think it was Columbus, Miami, and I'm blanking on the second one, but good for you. Take the trophy. Let's just put this competition to bed is my recommendation.
Me too. We're both in the same boat here, Valair. I just don't like Leagues Cup anymore. I think it's a shame. It's a waste of time. And unfortunately, this was the idea to replace the Open Cup with this tournament because some reason, somehow, MLS under Don Garber just does not believe in the Open Cup anymore. And, if they would have just done things a little bit more differently, then maybe the Open Cup would be better. But once again, it is getting better slowly, but there are improvements, but more has to be done. Like I've always said, I'm happy with where we are. I'm happy with the coverage from CBS Sports. I'm happy with that. We have new sponsors now for the Open Cup, now bigger spots for the amateur leagues for qualifying for the opening round. But once again, it's got to be every American club in MLS, all 27 American clubs, obviously not counting Montreal, Vancouver, and Toronto, right. But it has to be all 27 American clubs that has to be a part of this because it makes no sense at all to disparage what this cup competition is supposed to be about, the national championship of the sport in this country on a professional and amateur basis. So we'll see what happens there. And before I let you go, final thing, BJ Callahan has become a folk hero in soccer coaching circles. He comes out of nowhere in the CONCACAF Nations League about 3-4 years ago, beats Mexico handedly 3-0, defeats Canada 2-0 to win it. Now he comes to Nashville in his first season, and he gets you an Open Cup trophy. We'll see what happens in the playoffs, but you have to know that he's not going to be here for a long time because he's already done things for the national team before he does anything with the club team until now.
Yeah, it's honestly just an incredible hire for Nashville SC. And we weren't saying that when it first happened. I want to be clear. Like, it wasn't like, oh, this is a bad hire. It was never that, because he clearly had enough. He had proven himself enough to earn an MLS job, I think, as a head coach. He had been an assistant with in Philadelphia beforehand, but it wasn't for sure, right? I think me and a lot of other, whether on the fan side or the media side, a lot of other folks were saying, hey, Nashville needs to go and get somebody. They have an older roster. They need to go and get somebody who is established, like a Gio Savarese or somebody who's Bruce Arena, somebody who's established within MLS who can come and kind of take care of these guys who have been in the league for a while. What BJ Callahan did was, he's a new face. This is his first head coaching job for a club. So it was just like, oh, he's inexperienced, and then these players are very experienced. How is that going to gel? What we didn't know was that Nashville was going to get him 12, 13 new players in the offseason. So that's the first thing. But all credit goes to him, because he came into a city he hadn't lived in before. He came into a team that was 13th in the East, I believe, when he took over. Not an easy task. Not an easy task at all. He built his staff one by one. He built his team with Mike Jacobs, the general manager. But he is just an incredible man manager. He is tactically really, really sound. And, I think for him, the way he puts other people in front of him at any given opportunity, I think really, really makes these players want to go to bat for him. It makes these fans and these everybody in Nashville really love him, because even in the pinnacle of Nashville SC success, when they won the Open Cup, in the press conference, friend of mine, Claudio, who is a great, he does great work here locally for Nashville. He's like, BJ, please, can you just tell us how you really feel as a person, like personally? Can you talk about your experience winning the Open Cup? And he said, I'm proud. And then the rest of the answer was just him praising the coaching staff and the players and everybody else in Nashville SC organization except himself. And that's a very common thing for him. He doesn't say I a lot. He doesn't say it's all about we, the club, the team, and the city in general. And he's done a really good job bringing the city in. He's allowed some more access to these players than in the past. He's allowed more access into Nashville SC for fans and media. I can't say enough good things about him. I think he's honestly one of the best younger coaches the U.S. has ever produced. And look, from a personal perspective, it's really good to have him on the podium and ask him questions, because he gives you the time of the day to answer your questions. But yeah, you're right. I don't know. I mean, I think the Pochettino experiment, I don't know how that's going to go, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the head coach of the United States after the World Cup. And that's crazy to say, but I honestly just wouldn't be shocked.
Me neither. I mean, like I said, he's already proven himself on the international stage before he even got a chance to prove on the club stage. And I'll be honest with you, even though maybe people in Nashville were not thrilled with the hire, I had a funny feeling he may be very good here. I said to many people, look, if you want him back as the national team head coach, he has to be managing in the club scene. He has to have some chops on the club level. It's great what he did in the Nations League. He did an admirable job in the Gold Cup afterwards in that year, but he's got to be managing a club team first before he gets that job back. And I mean, he's proven so many people that he can do this job. And I think right now, flawlessly. It's just been unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think for Nashville, they're happy to keep him for years and years to come. And he seems happy here in Nashville. I doubt he'll take another MLS job or anything of those sorts, unless things go really badly, which I, again, don't see that happening. I don't know if there's any appetite for European teams to come for him. I don't know if there's appetite from him to go to Europe, honestly. I think he's so focused and so locked in on the Nashville project as a whole. And even when they were doing the trophy celebration a couple days ago here in Nashville, once they won, he was very sure to say, we're not done yet. We're still hungry. He kept repeating that. Because I think himself and for the players, I think they really want to keep winning and keep that culture. And he talks about how he built the club, not just Nashville SC, but the academy, Huntsville, that whole process, bringing the city in, all that stuff. And he really holds himself accountable for that sort of commitment that he's signing up for. So I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But I would be shocked if he is in Nashville, maybe if he continues at this successful rate in the next 2 years or so.
I don't see any champagne bottles behind you. I guess they're all gone after all that traveling and celebrating. So you're back to being regular now, and
unfortunately, just back to real life now, huh?
Back to real life. Unfortunately, that's the way it works. But Valair, I appreciate your time as always. Thanks again for joining me today. And good luck with the rest of the, I guess, only decision day in the playoffs. We'll see how far Nashville can go. Maybe it's a double. You never know. I don't want to jinx the situation, but look, the way that BJ Callahan has gone so far, you never know. He could be the dark horse here. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think the East is absolutely insane, and I have no idea who's going to win. But hey, we're due for some entertainment for sure.
Yes, we are. Valair Shabilla, 615 Soccer, covering Nashville SC. They win and are the 2025 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup champions. Thanks again, Valair.
Thank you, Daniel.